Hey everybody, Mr. Quick here. We're going to be looking today at Eureka Math / Engage New York Math, Module 2, Lesson 6, More Division Stories. So in the last lesson, we talked about creating essentially word problems out of division problems, division equations that we had solved using a variety of different methods. Today we're going to continue that, and we're going to look at a couple of different types of division problems. Let's get started. Okay, we're going to start with the division problem 50 divided by 2/3. Now, as we look at this, you'll notice one thing that's different from the last time is that previously we looked at division of fractions by fractions. Now we're looking at divisions of a whole number by a fraction. So that's one area that's a little bit different. First thing we have to do before we can even start to think about writing a problem is to make sense of what this is asking and to solve this. So we can do a couple of different things. We could look at keep, change, flip, in which case 50, we're going to keep it the same, but we want it to be a fraction, so keep in mind that we're going to do 50 over 1. Change division into multiplication, flip the 2/3 into 3/2, multiply straight across. 3 times 5 is 15. Bring over that 0. It's 150. Because, of course, we're not multiplying 3 times 5. We're multiplying 3 times 50. 1 times 2 is 2. 150 divided by 2 is going to be 75. So now I've got an answer, right? And that's one way to solve it is with the keep, change, flip. That's the computation way to solve it. By using a visual model, we kind of get to the heart of more, what is it asking? And so I think one way we can look at this is saying 50, when we're dividing that into 2/3, 50 is 2/3 of what size, right? And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my fraction, and I'm going to create a tape diagram, and I'm going to break it into thirds, right? That's as close as I can get to even sizes there. And I'm looking at 2/3, so I'm going to fill in 2 parts of that, and I know that the 2/3, which that represents, is equal to 50, right? So if I have 50, which is this section here, and I divide that by those 2 parts, that gives me 25. So I know, create a little space in the middle here, I know that this is 25, this is 25, and then this would also be 25. So then you end up with your grand total being 75, and then you can see how that connects back up here. 50 is 2/3 of 75. You can also look at that as saying, hey, what is 2/3 of 75? Well, that's 50, right? So now we've interpreted and we've solved our problem. Now let's create a division story out of that problem. Okay, now that we can look at that, we can now start to kind of interpret that. So let's say we wanted to use, we're going to choose, next step we're going to do is we're going to choose a unit. So let's say we said, okay, we're going to do something with miles. We're going to make this about distance. We could choose any number of things, right? We could choose money. We could choose all kinds of things. But let's go with miles. So here's an example from Engage New York. Okay, this is what they came up with. Ronaldo has ridden 50 miles of his bicycle race and is 2/3 of the way to the end. How long is the race? So again, if you're doing that in a visual way, you're thinking, okay, well, this tape diagram can be his race. He's 2/3 of the way there. That equals 50 miles. How far is the whole thing, right? And we would do the same math that we looked at on the previous page, and we'd come up with 75. So the total number of miles would be 75. Okay, let's look at a different way to write this problem. This time, let's go ahead and use money. We'll use green for money, right? We'll say that Adam spent $50 on a new calculator. That's an expensive calculator, right? That must be a graphing calculator. This was 2/3 of his money. How much did he start with? Now you can kind of see why I usually type out the words, right? Okay, so he spent 50. That was 2/3 of his money. So we know he spent 2/3, right? 2/3, and that equals 50. 50 divided by 2, we get the 25 in each. That means this is also 25. He started with 75. We could use, there's another example. Samantha used 50 tickets, which was 2/3 of her total, to trade for a new doll at the fair. How many tickets did she start with? So she spent 50 tickets. That was 2/3 of her total. Same exact math problem. We'll do one more quick example. This is from Eureka Math. I'll go through this one fairly quickly, but I just want to show you one more way to do it. Okay? So I'll give you the problem of 1/2 divided by 3/4. Okay? So again, when I see this, I'm going to go with a keep, change, flip. To me, that's the easiest way to go. Doesn't mean it is for you. Use what works best for you, right? Keep, change, flip. 1 times 4 is 4. 3 times 2 is 6. We have 4/6. I can see that both of those are even numbers and can both be divided by 2 is my magic number. I'm going to end up with 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 goes into 6 3 times. I'm going to end up with 2/3. So if I was going to put that in a problem, I might say I traveled half an hour, right? And I am 3/4 of the way home. How long is my drive? Well, so basically what we're looking at is that 1/2 is 3/4 of some number, right? So if I give myself 3/4, right? Or if I break that into fourths, right? Then 3 of those would be 1/2 of my journey. So I've got to take that 1/2 and divide it by those 3 parts and end up with 1/6 for each of them. That would mean the whole journey is 4/6, which gets me here. I have to simplify it and gets me here. Okay, so it's really a matter of knowing kind of the different ways you can write these problems. And we'll talk more about this in class, but just knowing that 1/2 is 3/4 of a number. So if the number is 2/3, 1/2 is 3/4 of that. It gets confusing to me because there's so many different fractions. That's when it helps to slow down and really ask yourself, does this make sense? And use some of the strategies we have in our toolbox. Okay, we'll talk more about this in class. Thank you for watching.